Cool camera shot. Well, this sure doesn't look like the underworld anymore. Oh, well. Yeah, this underworld looks vibrant. He did say that he was taking us to a gate, so maybe this was a gate to Elysium. Oh, I can't check the world map, so I can't check where I am. Or maybe I'm in the real world now or something, or I don't even know. But yeah, guess you would never be content with where you are in Black Belt. Yeah, I mean, there's always room for improvement. There's always, like, further heights to be able to achieve. I'd definitely be a whole lot more content with 4th degree. I mean, I'd be a lot more content with 2nd degree than 1st, and 3rd degree than 2nd, and all that. Like, 3rd degree is already, like, a really big achievement that I am really proud of. Like, there's not a whole lot of people that stay committed for that long to be able to reach that. There's a reason why there's not a whole bunch of 3rd degrees at the school. Because that is, like, a really massive thing to hit there, and I am definitely proud of it. But it's just so cool being able to hit masters. I feel like if I hit 4th degree, it wouldn't feel as impactful hitting 5. Like, it wouldn't be quite as important to me. 4 is, like, the major one. Being able to say that I hit my masters. So that would be, like, the most meaningful one. And then, like, 5 is, like, that'd be kind of cool to hit. But it's not, like, important. Like, if I keep on going at it, which, again, is, like, a great excuse to stay in shape, and I get it eventually, then great. But the big important life goal one is 4.
How is this possible?
Oh. I wouldn't have remembered that, considering that was 10 months and 4 days ago in real lifetime.
Been a long time.
It has.
You and the girl finally came
10
down
months.
to join us. Couldn't pass up the opportunity to show you both a warm Kevalonian welcome.
If you hurt her,
If.
I will
So,
cut out your
what
upper
exactly
eye,
is
and
this place,
time
and
it's
how did
gonna
he
be your ass
discover
off.
it and then be able to
No
factor it
one
into his
calls
plans?
me that.
There's another goat! That part I remember. Where we took out his
Give it to
fake eye and shoved it up the goat's butt. Is this supposed to be the same goat? If this is an emulation of the same kind of place? Okay, well, I mean,
Come and try.
and yeah, always room for improvement. So, I mean, is there a good cliff that I can kick you off of? Something here? I could get probably a little bit of fall damage here. Maybe not a lot. I don't think he'd follow me all the way up there. Like, can he climb, I wonder? Also, where'd his grunts go? Like, I get a decent smidge. If I do that a couple times, like, he'll be dead. But, I mean, would he climb? Do we think that a big dude like that can climb? Would he follow me up here? Oh! Oh! Whoops. Not what I intended. Because if he can follow me all the way up here, this would be a great height. Oh, he follows me all the way up here! So, I mean... Why did it send him at that angle? Well, I guess that means we just get one more kick out of this.
Heard about that, did you?
What a boss battle this is, huh? Oh, no, it's orange 2 times. Here, just...
My back.
But yeah. Become an 11th degree belt.
Gods were on my side.
Just gotta find some martial arts where that's possible. Maybe in 12th degree flex all those plebs beneath you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it sure looks rough. Would definitely take a whole lot of damage from falling on, like, the nice cloth here. I'm sure that really hurt. I mean, the cloth didn't shift at all, so it looks like a cloth, but secretly it's like a rock, I guess. Something or other. There's another gate over here? I thought we came in from the water. What the heck is going on over here?
No, 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 no. Ella. Ella.
Hey, what happens if you die in the afterlife?
Earth, mother of all, I greet you. Aniazu.
Cassandra?
What is this, bargain bin Pokemon the first movie?
Here.
Did you not check for vitals? Was Phoebe revived or just actually alive the whole time? Or yeah, I guess she'd just be extra dead or something like that. Oh, that's some BS. Always be here for you, sure.
Phoebe, forever, no matter what.
Thank you.
Can you stand?
What is this place? And where is the Cyclops?
Don't worry, the Cyclops is gone. And this is a doorway to Elysium.
What? Okay.
That's it? Through there? I'll find my real parents.
You can do this, Phoebe. Let's go.
And don't mention that you know me to the person in charge there, because she probably really doesn't like me.
Seeing this place?
Speaking of Pokemon movies, remember that your local Walmart sells a copy of the fourth movie for some reason? What the hell? That's certainly something, isn't it? Oh, lag on turning this off. Multiple copies even? I also just now remembered, I forgot to scroll up in like the activity feed just in case there was things I missed earlier, but it doesn't look like there was. It looks like no things happened while my alert boxes were off. Don't always do what we want.
Growing up means doing things you don't want.
Like continuing to play Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Because you're brave enough
I mean-
to do what's right.
Staying with you could be right.
Don't be afraid. I'm leaving this place too once I finish what I started. But I will be with you. I found this. Take it with you. To keep me close.
What
I don't know
if
why, but the facial animations there
my
made me
parents don't
feel
like
like this came straight out of a Telltale game for a second there. Give your
If they
parents a
don't
chance.
like you, that's their problem. But you have to give them a chance to love you. And if they don't take it, then you'll make a new family. Just like we did on Kefalonia.
Okay, that was a
Have
pretty
I
good
been able to
answer.
forget
I was worried
you're
what
my
this
family too.
speech
Can I
line
come
would
back
go
here and
towards.
find you?
If saying they'll for sure love you was the right answer. Yeah, that was pretty good there. I don't know, be strong on your own.
For this. Never doubt that. If you ever feel lonely, find that strength, and you'll be able to push through it.
Hey, look, it's the elevator to the depths of Area Zero.
No matter what. I think I'm ready.
Phoebe, the warrior who sailed to the Golden Fields. Phoebe who plunged into the underworld to save her family. Phoebe, the Eagle Bearer. You have made me so proud. Walk tall.
Were we just having this emotional moment over this guy's dead body this whole time? Just because that's where he happened to die when I was fighting him earlier? Oh my god, that's hilarious. Don't judge me.
I told you she wouldn't let the kid lose her memories.
Instead, she drew out a child's own strength and inspired her to endure her burden. Remarkable.
All right. Well, joke's on you this time. Maybe things did happen. Now I gotta go to my dashboard here. Oh, that has to reload because the power died twice. Terms of service have changed. Whatever. Recent events, and then I hit that button. I appreciate the 100 bits there, John Wildcat.
Joke's on you, maybe things
Mister, you
did
weren't
happen.
looking? What, the thing that I scoffed at, or the alert? I was scoffing at them having placed a bet and passing a coin. If that's what that was about. Unless that's just a meme about, need to replay the alert. Oh, the dead body. Yeah, the guy that I killed when Phoebe was going back to Elysium there. There was like a far out shot that showed like the ground around us. And there was the dead body of the Cyclops that I killed earlier. That was just right there. That, I guess we had this emotional moment just over top of the whole time. It's pretty wacky. Alright, back over this way. Another world. Yep, doing that. Wah. Alright, another quest here. There is stories I want to share this stream, but I may as well start them after the quest is underway, because I don't know how many cutscenes there are going to be there. What story do I want to tell first? 'Cause I think we're at the point that we can tell stories. Let's start with plants. Screw it, I'm gonna start telling a little bit of it here, and sprinkle more as it goes on. I harvested my tomatoes recently. My experiment of combining tomatoes and potatoes together onto one plant through grafting. So potatoes on the roots underground, and tomatoes is like the stalk above ground, so that you get like the produce of both. Because it's not like tomato roots give you anything, and it's not like potato stalks give you anything. This is DLC, is what this is. So whenever I do like a full playthrough of any game, I always do like all the main story content. So like main game, start to the credits, and then if any DLC came out, showcase like all the main content in that. Not necessarily 100%ing it, but showing like all the main story content of that. And that's what this is at this point, and it just goes on and on here. So I harvested those recently, and I'll give the update on those here shortly. But yeah, Morning Field, you saw this one in Hades too. Nice, nice. Very similar aesthetic, or a decent bit different maybe.
These souls are lost. Their true resting place deserves to be found.
So yeah, we're like delving into the afterlives and stuff like that in this final main DLC. Why are the souls lost? So there's not that much left to this game, probably.
Every soul arrives lost with unfinished business. Some are just more sympathetic than others.
Who are they?
Who are these souls you want?
Who are you people?
And I'll give them proper funeral rites.
How is it already 1:17 in the morning?
Some aren't so lucky.
And the unlucky ones
I didn't even notice.
Oh yes, they are left to wander eternity, unaccepting of their fates.
I'll help the souls find
I'll
peace.
help you, ferryman. Where should I start?
There's a soldier, an Athenian. He wished to die an honorable death in battle, but as he charged towards the enemy, he slipped in the dirt and fell.
Sounds like quite the warrior.
He needs a glorious death to pass on to Elysium, but he cannot go to war without his weapon and armor. One is located in the restless necropolis, and the other is in the hands of the champion known as Swordfish.
Swordfish. Of course he'd be here. I'll return the soldier's equipment and help him claim the death he seeks.
Okay, so I gotta... Whoa. There we go. Yeah, imagine the power just goes out again the moment I start talking about stories here. Haze 2, it's a long field with red grass and some blood vessel looking enemy. Like golden tree for direction. Oh, interesting. Yeah, time sure flies by when we talk about all sorts of things around here. In the Restless Necropolis. What? Oh, Chasm of Torment. That's where it says the thing. Restless Necropolis. Oh, that's that there. The southwestern area there. Alright, so with those, throughout the whole season, I would be getting tomatoes off of them, since that's what they were above ground, while I was just kind of hoping that they would be making potatoes underground at the same time. Like, that it would have enough resources, because normally, a tomato plant on its own would just be making tomatoes, and a potato plant on its own would just be making potatoes, and both of those are, like, very high energy-intensive things to do. It takes a lot of energy to make tomato fruit and potato tubers. And now suddenly having one plant that needs to share the same amounts of resources, but to make both rather than one or the other. The interwebs told me that I should expect like much lesser yields. And in terms of my tomato part of the tomatoes above ground, I'd say that the yield was definitely less than my pure tomatoes that I had in the garden here, but not by a massive ton. Like, it wasn't so insanely significantly so. They were making me, like, quite a lot of tomatoes, honestly, still. Like, I would go out there with a big bowl from time to time and harvest a whole bunch of tomatoes to bring in and keep on snacking them on. I still have a whole bunch upstairs. Like, it was only just recently that I did, like, final harvests of everything, considering, oh, like, frost is starting to come in here soon now that it's beginning of October. Guess I'll find another way around here, then. And they tasted no different than regular tomatoes, like them having potato roots did not affect anything like that. The tomato stock is still programmed to make exactly the type of tomato it was programmed to make, so the taste wasn't affected at all. It tasted just like normal, delicious tomatoes. So the production was higher than I expected, in that it wasn't that much lower than my pure tomatoes that I had here. But if we're comparing to, like, best case scenario pure tomatoes, it's no competition. Pure tomatoes produce more, because the, let's see here. If I go into plants here, the tomato tree, as I called it, that grew in my Oma's yard this year, the thing that literally went up past the garage roof, and I'd have to be reaching up there to pick tomatoes. This was the one plant here. Like, there's tomatoes all along here, but this one reached up past the garage roof, super bushed out up here. I would have, like, hangers hanging from this, from the overhang of the roof here that was holding these in place, like little metal hangers that are meant for hanging pots that I used to support the tomatoes that it grasped onto. It spread all the way over here. In the corner, these big tomatoes are like the Creole tomato, which is a type that is from southern United States in general. These seeds came from Louisiana. Guzma brought them for me, and I grew them. And this, I was seeing little yellow cherry tomatoes appearing all the way over here. Like, it was just insane. It reached a little bit this way, not that much. It seemed mostly intent on spreading up and to the left this way. And it was just everywhere. Like, the final harvest for this, it looked like this. I'll move all these when you move out. That's at my, one, that's at my Oma's place. And two, the plant is pretty much toast because frost is coming in. So that's going to be pulled out, go into the green bin, and then grow new ones next year, because that's what happens here as we get winter. And that's why I had to harvest everything off of it, even the ones that are green and not ripe yet, just because the moment frost comes in, they're toast. So they can finish ripening inside. So this is what the final harvest looked like from this one plant. So these were all the big tomatoes from, like, all the big tomato plants that were there, and then ones that I missed that I picked later. All the red cherry tomatoes from several red cherry tomato plants that were in that garden. And then everything from that one plant alone. Oh, and these were golden pearls, which aren't tomatoes, but are, like, a related species. So, in terms of my tomatoes, if we're comparing to, like, peak tomato production of pure tomato, it's no competition. Like, a pure tomato that has tomato roots is going to take it hands down. That doesn't need to use any of its resources to be making potatoes. That uses all of its resources for making tomatoes alone. Like, absolutely no competition there. Just absolute insanity. There's absolutely nothing redeems that the YouTube side can actually see rarely when I'm on this screen, since it can't normally be seen. Apparently I can delete that message. No, not on this layout here, but I can on my other chat that I read from. So, yeah, production wasn't as low as I thought it was going to be for the tomato part, but it is a significant difference if we're comparing to, like, peak tomato. Like, mine in my yard weren't exactly peak tomato here. You can see yourself giving absolutely nothing. But still, it was pretty good production. Let's see here. Yeah. So I'd be going out sometimes and be gathering, like, a bowl full of this. It was mainly yellow tomatoes, that same kind that the tomato tree is. Since I grew a whole bunch of those this year, that made up most of my tomato stocks, with occasional red ones. So I'd be picking, like, red and yellow tomatoes off of my tomato bushes, and it was pretty nice. So the production still wasn't half bad, but not, like, out of this world like the tomato tree could be by going out and getting that. And as for the potato production, this is what I got. So I started pulling them up from the ground, just hoping, please say that there's, like, potatoes there at all, and that not all the energy went to the tomatoes, considering it was more tomatoes than I was expecting. And yeah, immediately pulling it up, there's already, like, a couple big potatoes that came out with the roots. And it's interesting to see here, like, there's 100% pure tomatoes right there, but it's attached right here to potatoes. So these potatoes were absorbing nutrients and sending them up the stalk to make tomatoes. Like, It's so crazy that that's a thing that's possible. You wouldn't look at tomatoes and potatoes and think like, these are so closely related that you could combine them together. But nope, you can. That's a thing that's possible. And the grafts held like really, really well together. So where I surgically put them together by grafting, you can see the point here. Like this is 100% pure tomato. This is 100% pure tomato. Every single one that I pulled up from the ground, none of them snapped at the graft point. They all snapped somewhere at the roots, with the roots being held under the soil. Nothing snapped at the graft point. Like that was on there. That is solid one plant sharing nutrients. So none of them came apart at the graft point, which was great. Like there was an extremely strong graft. Here you can see this is a long potato stalk, and then that's where it's grafted to the tomato. You can see like the little V there. If I open in browser here, see it a little bit clearer with like a bigger image here, where it's like, yep, here's the tomato stalk that's been cut like that. Here's the potato stalk that's going over it like that, and they were sharing nutrients. It worked out just fine. Even this one where I was worried that this would come apart, because in this potato, I put in 2 tomatoes side by side, and they both stayed together. Like, and it held together really well, having 2 tomato stalks on 1 potato rootstock there. Like, it worked out great. So, yeah, they held together really well. Here's the patch where I had them. This is all pure tomatoes over here. This was my big tomato section at home, and then this was my Pomato section where I had 4 of them, but one of them died early on, so just like 3, really. And this was the harvest, plus a couple tomatoes that I missed the first time when I was doing my initial before frost harvest. So there's a few tomatoes in there, and all made by the same plant. These are called red apple potatoes. They're a type that has red skin, and they're the type that I just so happen to grow the most. I find that they do really well here. So I got all that, I washed them off. This is what the total inventory looked like across 3 Pomato plants, and then to average those across 3 plants, it looked like this. So about that many per plant on average. And for reference, for my pure potatoes that I was growing at my Oma's place, this is what a good harvest looked like from one of my pure potatoes. So the amount of potatoes on average is about the same. So the tomato production went down by a smidge compared to my tomato plants, by a lot compared to peak tomato plant, but the amount of potatoes was about the same. So I might just do this in future years, because it sounds like I can get same production of potato plants, but now my potato plants are also making tomatoes for me. So it's just, I get more stuff out of it than I would normally, if it does work like that in future years. There is more factors to consider here, like with how busy I was this year, especially during like my final semester of university, and then being away for several weeks immediately after. I didn't always have, no, wait, it wasn't during university that I planted my potatoes. I think I planted them just before I left on my trip. So I can't reuse that as a super realistic excuse, but just generally being busy with a lot of stuff after my trip here, and not being able to have the dedicated time to commit like an hour, 2 hours to yeah, that'd be like a 2.5 hour job to be able to weed everything in the potato patch when everything started coming up there. And not having like any specific day where it's like, oh yeah, I have time for that during the day to just come by and do that. The potato patch got pretty overrun with weeds, whereas my tomatoes were the ones that were like here at home where I'm living, whoa, and I'm a lot better able to like baby and take care of. So the pure potatoes did have a lot more competition, so that could be a factor as well. If it was like peak condition for the potatoes, then maybe they would have been producing more than the tomatoes. Because yeah, I would have assumed that production of both would be lowered. But it was about the same there, so maybe the bazillion weeds that grew there, I got like 1 session of weeding in, where I pulled out like all the weeds in that area. And then after a little while, a whole bunch of them grew back. But like there had already been a decent bit of damage to a bunch of my potatoes at that point. Which is why, for reference, with that one photo, I tried to get like a good potato harvest, like one of the much better ones, to snap that photo. To show for reference of like, this is what an ideal one looks like, not one that only produced like 1 or 2 because it was so insanely surrounded by weeds. So hopefully my comparison there was still pretty fair. So yeah, it actually turned out really well, because it was basically just like potatoes that also produce like some bonus tomatoes along the way. So I think I am going to do it again next year. I was going to wait for like the harvest this year. I did it for 2 reasons this year. One was like just as an experiment to see what it'd be like and if it is worth it. Like if it would give me more stuff net. Like I figured it would give me less tomatoes than a tomato plant, less potatoes than potato plant. but net-wise produce more. So, like, if I had spots for, like, 4 plants in total, if I did 2 tomatoes and 2 potatoes, my theory was that 4 tomatoes would be more than 2 tomatoes and 2 potatoes. And yeah, it's looking like that would definitely be more potatoes in that case. More tomatoes? Probably yes, assuming the tomatoes grew to about the same size as the ones that I had in my yard here. But if we're talking ideal conditions of like the crazy tomato tree, then no. Like 2 crazy tomato plants would produce more than 2 tomato plants, I would say, if we're comparing to that crazy tree. But still, like, it was a decent bit of production. It was definitely very worth it. I have since I have since eaten my Pomato potatoes. My dad ended up making cheesy mashed potatoes out of them. There's still some leftovers of them in the fridge, actually, that maybe I'll have for lunch tomorrow. Might well be the case. They were pretty good, not gonna lie. And just like the tomatoes, there was like 0 difference with the taste. So I got to eat potatoes that were made from like the energy provided from tomato stalks that were photosynthesizing and passing down that good energy stuffs, and ate tomatoes that were made from the nutrients that were supplied from the ground by potatoes. And next year I might try combining more different species. Oh, I can just leave here completely. I wasn't paying attention. I'm playing on autopilot while I'm rambling. Now it's returned the gear to the Athenian soldier. I might try more species next year, because this year I did get some other experimental species in the nightshade family. So the nightshade family of plants is like tomatoes, potatoes, peppers, eggplants. Those are like the 4 big commercialized ones in the nightshade family. But there's thousands upon thousands of species in the nightshade family. It's just those are the 4 big commercialized ones. So early this year, I tried doing some research into like, what are some other like edible nightshade plants that I can try growing for funsies and get to try like some new flavors. And I got like several seeds online of all sorts of different things. I got golden pearls, amber pearls, cimbalo, purple hell tomato, and kangaroo apples, they're called. Some of which look really closely to tomatoes visibly, but are completely different species. And recently, out of curiosity, I looked up what their genus was. So in terms of like relation of any given species, you have family. There's higher levels than family, but for the sake of argument here, like this is the top level as far as I'm concerned for like something's possible or not to graft together. There's family, then there's genus, then there's species, and then there's variety. So you've got like all sorts of different varieties of apple that might taste completely different, but they're still the same species of apple. So tomatoes and potatoes, they're in the same genus. So they're like really closely related. They're completely different species, but they're really closely related. Peppers, I think, are in a different genus. And I have heard that people have successfully grafted together things like peppers and tomatoes, but the odds of success are lower because they're not quite as closely related because they're in different genuses, but it is possible. And I looked up out of curiosity, what's the genus of things like golden pearls and amber pearls? It's the same genus as tomatoes and potatoes, so they're really closely related too. I think cimbalo's in the same genus as well. And the other 2, I don't remember if I looked it up or not, but at least those few are in the same genus. And I really like the taste of the golden and amber pearls, especially the amber pearls. That's probably my favorite flavors out of my experimental nightshades. I thought those tasted really good. So maybe next year I'll try grafting amber pearls and golden pearls and stuff like that onto potato stalks. And each potato sends up like multiple stalks. Like each one would have like 4 or 6 stalks that get sent up. So when I was grafting early this year, I would put multiple different types of tomato onto the same potato thingamabob, just because I could play around with all the different stalks. So there was one tomato plant that I had that made me beefsteak tomatoes, which are like big tomatoes that you put in sandwiches. It only made 3 because it was also making 2 other kinds of tomatoes and potatoes, but still it made me some. So it had beefsteak tomatoes, better bush tomatoes, and my yellow tomatoes, in addition to the potatoes it was making. So a 4 type of thing plant, but 2 different species, tomatoes and potatoes. But I could play around with having multiple different things, so many different tomatoes on the same plant, since that was 3 big tomatoes and 2 types of cherry tomato. My other ones were 1 red and 2 yellow on one, and then the other one was 3 yellow, just because I had so many yellow, and 1 purple stalk. Indigo rose tomatoes, they're called, and they're purple. They're purple blackish. They're really dark purple to the point that they basically look black. And it was really cool to have all sorts of different types of things on one plant. So I might take that further and have multiple different species rather than just multiple different varieties of tomato next year, where it's like, try to get like as many species on one plant as possible. Potato roots, tomato stalk, golden pearl stalk, amber pearl stalk, maybe other things, and just see like how many species I can stack up just for the sake of experimentation.
Just clumsy.
I think would be really cool to do.
Did death
So,
find you on the battlefield like
so maybe next year during Assassin's Creed Valhalla, maybe I'll be able to have some updates to
I'll
that
give you
if
the
I do
glorious
decide
death
to
you seek.
do that.
I can't fight.
Yeah, my tomatoes were like super healthy plants. They did like amazingly.
Lucky for you, I have your armor and weapon here.
So why don't I just Frankenstein more stuff? Just play with the power of science and genetics here by combining things that are closely related enough.
It feels
And one day I would like to play with genetics in terms of like crossbreeding new varieties where like the seed is a new type of variety of like tomato, for example. So maybe next year I'll try to specifically cross-pollinate certain types so that I can get seeds and be like, hey, this is a new variety that is the child of these two parent types.
Tell me, did we save glorious
Like grafting
Athens
things
and
together
its
doesn't
people?
mess with the genetics of the seeds that you get. Athens was ravaged by
Athens
plague, I'll
wasn't
tell him the
destroyed by
truth.
Sparta, but by disease. A plague wiped out the city. I can
Yeah,
still
it's a
smell
cool,
the
exciting
dead
field that
flesh
I'm just
and
looking
piles
forward
of
to
bone.
experimenting with more.
So, Athens is no more.
And I'll continue trying to like graft
We all
fruit trees
died
and
for
stuff
nothing.
together.
Without Athens, without its people, what is there left to honor?
Which, speaking of, I recently went to a fruit festival and I did
Put an end to my suffering.
not actually get any information from that on what the grafted apples to my almost crab apple tree could be. But the person that grafted them on, I did meet him, like, was it last week? Was it the week before? I met him recently, and I asked him if he remembered what it was, and he didn't initially, but I showed him a picture of the successful graft of his, and he told me that it was Prairie Macintosh. He seemed to remember. So now I'm going to, well, make sure to remember that the type of apple that my almost crab apple tree is making is a Prairie Macintosh. Is the case. So I will keep that in mind. Let's go ahead and do this. So yeah, a little bit of more grafting stuff there. I did also find out from the fruit festival that I went to a potential reason why a lot of my grafts failed. So when I cut the thing that I'm trying to graft, it's important to line it up. I love the ragdolls in this game. When you graft things together, it's important to line up the cambium, or however it's pronounced, which is like this little green layer just underneath the bark, or underneath the skin of something like a tomato or a potato, which is where nutrients are shared around. You need to make sure that those are lined up across the two plants, otherwise they can't share nutrients and the graft is gonna fail, it'll die. And I always made sure that the cambium was lined up when I was doing my grafting. It worked out great on the tomatoes and potatoes. I didn't have as great of success on my fruit trees this year. And they told me at this fruit festival that one potential reason for that could be if I'm touching the cambium with my hands or my fingers, then like the oils from my fingers will get on that and it'll form like a barrier and the plant won't be able to share nutrients. So I was like, oh, I probably did that a whole bunch without realizing that I'm not supposed to do that. And that's a problem with 3D printing as well. If I touch my print bed a whole bunch, then the oils from like my fingers will get onto the print bed. And then as it builds up, there's more and more chances that the thing that I'm printing isn't going to properly stick to the bed while it's printing, and it'll start to peel off in the middle of a print, and then a print will fail. So I need to wash my build plates sometimes. I take them off and I just scrub them down with soap. Just hand soap or dish soap, nothing special, to clean that stuff off, because yeah, it forms a bit of a barrier between the plastic and the metal bed that it's supposed to stick to, and I guess it works kind of the same with plants. So next year I'm going to keep that in mind, and here, I'll just finish you off with this even though I don't need the adrenaline. So maybe I'll have some better grafting success next year by keeping that in mind. Will maybe be the case. Whoa. Whoa, and there's no ending cutscene or anything? Okay, now everyone's just gone. Amazing. So yeah, that's the grafting update there. My Pembina plum graft on the plum tree out at my family's lake cabin died because I took off the bandage a little bit too early, because it was growing so dang fast that the bandage seemed like it was suffocating it. So I took off the bandage being like, okay, it's been growing like crazy. So surely the graft is on there strong enough now. But I guess unlike tomatoes and potatoes that are just a seasonal thing that grows fast, a fruit tree that grows slower isn't quite gonna be healing that as fast. So after I took off the bandage, apparently it wasn't super long after that branch snapped off. So that's a little bit unfortunate, kind of sad there. I'll definitely have to pick up a Pemp and a Plum stick again next year, because I do think Pemp and Plums are like one of my favorite types of plums. And I did get a lot of interesting ideas from this fruit festival of things that I might want to graft next year. Got to try out all sorts of different delicious types of fruits. So yeah, that's the update on the tomatoes and potatoes and like some general grafting stuff for the future. So yeah, we'll see what kind of crazy multi-species monstrosity I can create in my lab here next year. And because things like golden pearls and amber pearls are so niche that most people would have never heard of them, I never heard of them until I did research into what are some interesting other edible nightshades. I know I wasn't the first person to combine tomatoes and potatoes, but maybe I would be for things like potatoes and golden/amber pearls, just because they're so niche. Be like a world's first of combining these two species together onto one plant. And that'd be cool. That'd be some interesting bragging rights. Be pioneering some new things to find out whether or not it's possible. I'm sure it is. They're in the same genus, so like, they're super closely related, so I'm sure it's possible.
I told him about the plague.
You chose to torture an already troubled soul.
He loved Athens and its people, but he needed to know the truth.
Ah, the plague.
You'd find out eventually anyway if a bunch of people die and like tell them like, yeah, I died from the plague.
Couldn't bear to bend the body.
So she's stuck down here.
She now wanders the halls of the Passage of Souls, still sick with plague. Athanado's pyre can purify the dead, but the only way she'd survive the ordeal is by consuming an asphodel.
The only way she'd survive the ordeal when she's already dead. Yeah, how does dying work here? Where do I find the flower?
Flower.
My little fleshling is in luck. Due to all
Is there like another layer after this, or what happens?
There is a breach between the underworld and Elysium. You might
Guess it's really not for all eternity then. Like, I know that Brasidas was told that he would be like reuniting families who were separated by war for all eternity as his new job.
What makes this asphodel
But
flower so
no,
special?
if he can die again eventually. If he can die again, that means that it can't be for infinity, because the day will come that he dies again eventually. Like, if something is possible, then it's impossible for it to not happen if the time scale we're talking about is infinity.
something as rare as an
It is
asphodel
going to
flower
happen
in this place
eventually.
will
It's only a matter of time. I mean, what do I know?
attention.
Alright, well, let's go get this stupid flower so that she doesn't become extra dead. Found in the Elysium Beach in the Scorched Lands. In the eastern part of the Scorched Lands. I don't know, so I guess I'll just go north here and it'll tell me about it eventually. Will be the case. Sure. Sure, then.